Hi, I'm Niall Murphy, I'm CEO and co-founder of Everything. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk, where I sit down with industry leaders from across the consumer goods and retail industry to talk about what's shaping the agenda, what their experience has been, and the wisdom that they have to impart as we look forward. So today I'm sitting down with the formidable Dawn Robertson, who's a powerful influencer in the retail space, both big and small. So Dawn is currently CEO of On-Campus Marketing, which serves more than 900 college campuses across the US. She's been previously the president of Old Navy. She launched Macy's.com and Bloomingdale's.com. She's also serving currently as president of Sean Diddy Combs branded Sean John apparel line, and she's been involved in restructuring the Myer Department Stores in Australia and a bunch of other projects spanning both the apparel and the cosmetics space in various parts of the world. So it's great to be talking to Dawn. I think we're going to have a fascinating conversation covering the DTC and e-com revolution and the shifts in consumer behavior that are really driving the bus for the industry now. You know, what's next for retailers, as obviously they've had to adapt, but also the innovation that is going to be necessary for retailers to succeed in the new world, whatever that is that we're emerging into. So, looking forward to a great conversation with Dawn. Thanks for joining us here on Real Talk, and let's dive in. Hey, Dawn, it's great to have you here. Good to see you again. I hope you're doing well. You're surviving. You're down the Florida Keys right now, yeah?
We are surviving. It's storming and we're fighting it out, but working is still, you can look at the ocean. So it's actually really good.
Life's about balance, yeah? So now you've seen, you would have said you've seen just about everything there is to see in retail before, I guess, what's happened over the last 18 months or so, right? So as we're coming in to, I don't know, I don't want to call it this return to normal, I don't think is the way to call it, but as we're emerging into whatever it is we're emerging to, right? Like what do you think should be keeping everybody up at night, particularly in the retail space in this new landscape?
Well, it's interesting you ask. It has been nothing but normal, of course, but over the last year, I was telling you, I'm met every month with a group of women CEOs, and we really covered a lot of issues, what was working, what wasn't working, and how to get through it. And I would say there were a couple of things that we really focused on the most. Most of all is that I call it kind of the taste of new. As a CEO of a direct-to-consumer retailer in the college market, learned about new. So, in 2021, retailers and brands are going to have to join many marketplaces. One of the things that we all discovered was that as selling through your own channels really wasn't enough, whether it was bricks and mortar or e-commerce, whichever one it was. Customers are generally kind of much more likely to buy on a platform where they have loyalty or subscription perks, paid loyalty, Amazon Prime, Walmart Plus, we've all joined them. It's a recurring revenue stream. And most of all, it's driving that consumer purchase frequency. Even social selling is done. We've just added Instagram shopping, but TikTok, Snap, live stream, all the live stream shopping really working. Big important lesson we learned last year. Another one that I guess we knew, but still keeps us up, is that value for the money is key. Consumers are buying a little less. We've learned to live with less in the pandemic. And a lot of retailers are really spending time reviewing their assortments, resizing, buying less deep, less markdowns, and also increasing, private brand to some degree. Sustainability's been back into focus. It's been around for a while. We've talked about it in different levels, but it's back. And I think while 2020 was about the pandemic, that we are committing to embrace different options. Resale, as you know, is coming up. Many people trying resale options. As value conscious and sustainability consumers are talking in the market about what they want. Importantly for all retailers is that operations, which is something I've done for a long time, are getting a much more needed makeover. One thing we learned in 2020 is it's not going to be the same, and we have to live with disruptions, but importantly, we have to see them coming. And I think that's something we learned in 2020. We didn't see this coming as much. So I've always said that retailing is an art because I'm a product person, but we've now really learned that science is really outweighing the art of retailing. And the old ways of working, I grew up in retail, are broken, which means we just can't rely on past performance. And we're spending a lot of time understanding the widespread adoption of analytics, machine learning, digital transformation, but a whole change in how we make decisions. It's pretty interesting.
I mean, in the UK, Gap have announced they're closing all of their stores, right? They're moving completely to an e-com strategy in that environment. And direct to consumer has obviously been the sort of the thing that was coming, so to speak, if we can imagine the world pre-March of 2020, right? It arrived in a forced way, you could say, over the last 12 months. But how do you see that model integrating into the sustained retail landscape, kind of now, in the new environment?
We used to think that it was a channel, direct to consumer. But after 2020, anybody who still thinks it's a channel might need to go rethink. Brands themselves are going to have to bypass department stores to make more direct contact with that consumer. Direct to consumer showed us all that we had to change how we thought about it and reduce our dependency on bricks and mortar versus direct to consumer. And it's been talked about over it, but it's just growing. And anyone who does not have that direct to consumer business is going to have a real challenge as we move forward, because it's not going away. In the month of December in 2020, it was 45% of all retail in the US, direct to consumer, from 20 the year before. So it doubled. So it's not going away. And what's happened from that, which is pretty interesting, is that everyone wasn't quite ready for learnings about online. So, logistics have made a bigger piece of the puzzle because of that. So, returns online are a big deal. They're much higher than in-store purchase. Just one example. Partnerships, developing partnerships. I can tell you that we've had some huge supply chain issues in the US. I happen to have a great relationship with FedEx, and I'm getting all the trucks I need, but I've had to go all the way to the top to get them. Narvar has a new partnership with UPS, and Amazon has a new partnership with Kohl's. And that is all to help with this direct-to-consumer logistics, which is pretty interesting. Amazon's offering prime air services to rival retailers, or picking up anything UPS needs. FedEx is leveraging its investment in aircrafts to try to get everything done. Supply chain has become a big issue with direct-to-consumer growing. And those are just offshoots of thinking about direct consumer, not going away.
But then you alluded to it just now, and I guess this is implied a piece of advice you're giving here. You said sort of thinking of direct to consumer as another channel, as a kind of flawed perspective, right? I get the sense we're dealing with a pretty multimodal circumstance now. Consumers going to retail but expecting an e-commerce fulfillment, or vice versa, and so on. How do you agree with that? Do you think that we're seeing some sort of new hybrid e-com meets bricks and mortar type of operating model?
Well, we've seen it. Consumers really expect that fluidity. So they want to be able to buy online, pick up in store. They may want to get it shipped to the store and come pick it up. They may want it delivered to their home. All of those options, the consumer wins. Because the one thing that I've really seen is that consumers call all the shots now. When I grew up as a retail department store person, we thought we called the shots. But today, after 2020, and even before, consumers really call the shots. They've always been important, but they are changing so much faster what they want. It's pretty interesting to me. Their expectations are higher. And even when we, had to shut down and revert quickly, the retailers who created quickly that what consumers wanted, what you're talking about, where it was Kohl's, for example, in the US, within a couple of weeks, went to buy now, pick up in store, and they loaded it in your car. Grocery did it, retailers did it, even brands did it. And the people who moved faster and scrambled to make it seamless across all those platforms, which stores were shut, or back to consumer, have won. And I think if we had one big learning, it was that the consumer owns our business now, and we have to be attuned to what they want.
So that shift in consumer behavior, which is you could have said was transitory, but probably is not, right? I mean, yeah, teach an old dog new tricks, right? Yeah, they've got those new tricks now, right? I mean, what do you think the driving forces are in consumer behavior going forward that we've now got to all react to?
Well, I would say that first of all, understanding what they are. So reconnecting with those consumers and understanding where they are now, because there's talk that people do want to some degree, go back in and be in store to some degree. So what are their expectations? Reconnecting with them, understanding what they want, and understanding the pathway to getting those consumers back. Investing heavily in analytics is something that we are spending a lot of time on, using those insights and deliver the experience they want. So understanding what they want through analytics and then delivering that, really critical. Boosting marketing. How we used to run marketing is very, very different. So that's another thing that customers are looking at. Obviously, it's very driven by digital, but by other ways as well. So, online, in-store, how do we do it? And then really building better products that they want. Understanding what the physical store piece means, and where necessary, kind of retooling that integration. Retailers are really doing it right now. As I've been a lot more involved in the fintech space in one of my current roles on the board, retailers are spending this time right now replatforming, and they're thinking about how do they integrate that physical piece with their direct-to-consumer piece, and what are all the analytics that they really need. I know I've learned, and all the retailers I've talked to, customer loyalty is pretty hard to earn. So understanding what they want is critical, and most of them really love the buy online, pick up in store. Probably one of the most successful things that we learned, started through COVID, but has now made it faster, more efficient, a broader selection of product, and ease of picking it up. So that has really, really won. As they start thinking about going back in store, there is still the ability to leverage stores. And so while I love to talk about direct to consumer, I was, of course, a bricks and mortar retailer first. And customers still do have some drivers. So, for example, in footwear, great example, they do want to try on shoes before they buy them. Kind of interesting. And then also returns. And the other thing that I've heard retailers really talking about, and we've spent a lot of time on, is how do you manage your inventory? And how do you do it?
That's where the ability to leverage the e-commerce model with the physical retail experience model can play out. I mean, just your point about shoes, and my wife had like 6 boxes of shoes delivered so she could try them out, and guess what? None of them were right. So that was not a good transaction for that particular retailer who got all the returns right. But I think it's really interesting, this notion that consumers want to go to a store for an experiential purpose, and we've got work going on with Puma like that, right? That actually the experiential role, either advisory or just simply immersion brand experience is super valuable. But when you look at the consumer's desire for efficiency of fulfillment, it's this kind of one click and it turned up in my living room is now the expectation, right? Do you agree with that?
Very much so. And what we've learned from that, being a direct consumer retailer, is that ease at checkout, which is what your wife did. I don't know if she used Apple Pay. We won't call names here, but whether it's Google Shopping, Apple Pay, PayPal, buy now, pay later, whatever it is, it's really improving conversion. So the shopper online wants to be able to have that broad assortment, buy it, have loyalty, so maybe get points, or Amazon Prime, we know, is a huge success. But with converting them is how quick it is. I mean, I use Apple Pay, and most of us do all the time. One click, it's at your house. And so that kind of cultivating that existing customer relationship, I think, is really, really critical. And growing that existing customer base with the things that they're beginning to know and love. So retailers have to react quickly to that. It's become much easier to integrate all these new ideas, loyalty and benefits, much easier to integrate. And having partnerships in that, and using the information you get from that. Advanced customer information, really critical. So that retailer who your wife brought her shoes from will now understand what she likes and what she doesn't like, and they can serve up to her when she shops what she would like. So the follow-up in the customer information is really going to be one of the keys as we move forward.
Yeah, so a big message here is adaptation in this new environment is about picking the right partners and figuring out how to integrate those capabilities into the experience that you can deliver, right? I mean, technology-wise and infrastructure-wise, people aren't going to suddenly have all of these tools instantly in their toolbox, but they're out there, right? Is that your point, right? Is reach out into the rest of the ecosystem and create through partnership? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. You know, kind of doing a deep dive into your platforms and using that piece, but then analyzing what your customer expects and what they want. And then what are all the technology updates out there? You know, I've mentioned returns a little bit. As we've grown direct to consumer in this past year, returns are an issue that we retailers are facing, as you can imagine. They're double on direct to consumer than they are in store. But many brands that I've talked to have done a good job of thinking this through. Ulta, which is a beauty brand, obviously, have created a swatch squad, which is to ensure color is right in direct to consumer. So when you buy, about this, Niall, but when you buy cosmetics, you have to have the right color, right? So critical.
What are you saying, Dawn? I know.
No,
Yes.
I know, but just that's a critical point. Also, it reduces returns. You know, so like your shoe, having the right color reduces returns. Also, fit. Understanding how you can get that consumer that they're confident the fit they're buying online works for them. And there's a lot of technology tools out there that can help with that. So what I've said to many of these retailers that I work with all the time is understand what's the most important category for you to focus on, because there's so much technology out there that you have to decide what's important to you, because there's only X amount of time to redo your platform, integrate all these technologies and make them work. And you know about that because you've done this a lot longer than me from a technology point of view. But there's a couple of examples in returns where AI-driven SaaS can leverage predictive analytics to say the cause of the return, mitigate the issue, and then hopefully utilize some of the data you have to help you serve up what somebody wants. So that's just one example of the many technologies out there. You know, Narvar has been fantastic for us for a help in the logistics piece of letting people know where their shipments are. So the whole logistics piece has just become so much more important. Product always is king. You know, I'm a product merchant, so it's always king. But the things that we've really spent time on is logistics and how we do it and using technology to make that happen.
I know we could talk for hours here, but we're going to need to get ourselves to a conclusion. But I guess when you look forward now, right, and there must be things that you think are most exciting, right? Given a fresh environment, if perhaps forced refreshed environment, right? What are you most excited about? What are the changes that you're seeing in the industry today that you say these create the gaps now that can drive differentiation?
I would say the most exciting to me is that retailers, mature and new, are very agile. And we weren't as agile before, whether it was in the UK, not just US, as things fluctuated very quickly, consumer behavior. Seeing that agility in retail today, business was and continues to be the key. It was a real awakening for all of us, but it's exciting because mature markets and customer insight capabilities will give us an advantage to spot and react what's happening. And that is the key to going forward. So for me, you know, being agile, digital marketing, all kind of things. Nike, they did a great job. They did premium subscription to its online training club because everybody was training at home. Big Scottish brewery funneled British frustrations with a whole new brewery idea. It's just consumers have reacted. They're going to remember what the retailers who reacted quickly did. And we believe we responded ethically and listened to what the public mood was authentic. They're going to go forward. I mean, the industry is just faced unheard of challenges and difficulties, I will say, in 2020. I would never have predicted in my lifestyle. But the agility helps that scramble for survival. And while the shock hadn't quite worn off, that agility is beginning to work in 2021, and we're seeing it. Retailers are being proactive, really for the first time. No one's asleep looking at only last year, or very few are. But to sustain it, got to look for growth. And I would say that agility gives us growth. That's the kind of exciting we've learned from.
Yeah, what Winston Churchill said, never waste a good crisis, right? And not that we'd want one. it is a forced reboot, and those that have learned to survive it or are thriving out of it, I guess that's a new muscle, right? So fantastic. Thank you so much for your wisdom, Dawn. You always have so much to impart. Really appreciate it. And I know you've got 50 incredible things that you're busy at the moment. Looking forward to tracking that success, and wishing you all the best for it. Yeah.
Thank you, Niall. Thanks for asking me. It's a subject I love to talk about. Thank you very much.